The morning sun rose over New Haven like it had done for the past 12 years. The sky was painted in shades of purple and orange, colors that still amazed Sarah Chen even after visiting this colony dozens of times. She stood on the bridge of her supply ship, the Morning Star, watching the peaceful farmlands below through the viewport. New Haven was everything humanity hoped for when they reached the stars. Rolling fields of golden wheat stretched for miles. Small towns dotted the landscape, their solar panels glinting in the dawn light. Children were probably waking up now, getting ready for school. Farmers would be starting their morning routines. It was simple, quiet, and beautiful. Captain Chen had delivered supplies to New Haven 43 times. She knew many of the colonists by name. There was old Thomas Wright, who ran the general store and always complained about the cost of Earth coffee. Little Maya Patel, who wanted to be a starship pilot someday. The Rodriguez family with their 5 children, who ran the biggest farm in the Northern Valley. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," her communications officer said. "It's from an unknown vessel." Sarah turned from the viewport. "Put it through." The screen flickered to life. A face appeared that was definitely not human. It was angular and covered in scales that shifted from blue to green. The eyes were large and golden with vertical pupils. This was a Caldr, one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. "Human vessel, this is Commander Zekthar of the Caldr Imperial Fleet," the alien said. His voice was cold and formal. "You are in violation of Caldr territorial space. You will depart immediately." Sarah felt confusion wash over her. "Commander, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Morning Star. New Haven has been a registered human colony for 12 years. This system was unclaimed when we arrived." "Your records are incorrect," Zekthar replied without emotion. "Historical archives show this world belonged to the Caldr Empire 6,000 years ago. We are reclaiming our ancestral territory. All humans must evacuate within 48 hours. 48 hours? Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. There are nearly 3,000 people down there. We can't evacuate that many people in 2 days. We'd need at least 2 weeks to arrange transport ships. That is not my concern, the commander said. 48 hours. Comply or face consequences. The screen went dark. Sarah immediately opened a channel to the colonial administrator on New Haven. Governor Lisa Monroe appeared on screen, her face already tight with worry. "I got the same message," Lisa said before Sarah could speak. "I've already contacted Earth. They're sending diplomats, but they won't arrive for at least 3 days. What about transport ships?" Sarah asked. "The nearest ones are 6 days away," Lisa replied. Her voice cracked slightly. "Sarah, we have families here, children. We can't just abandon our homes in 2 days." Sarah gripped the edge of her console. "I'm sending a message to the Caldr commander right now. We'll request an extension. This is insane. No civilized species would expect a complete evacuation in 48 hours. Over the next day, Sarah sent 17 messages to Commander Zekthar. She explained the logistics. She pleaded for more time. She offered to arrange a meeting between Caldr representatives and human diplomats. The commander's responses were brief and identical. 48 hours. No exceptions. Down on New Haven, the colonists prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. They packed what they could. Parents held their children close. The schools closed. People gathered in churches and community centers, praying that common sense would prevail. Ambassador Marcus Webb arrived 36 hours after the first ultimatum. His diplomatic vessel, the Meridian, dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately contacted the Caldr fleet. Sarah watched from the Morning Star as Webb's face appeared on the shared communication channel. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had negotiated 17 successful treaties with alien species. He believed in diplomacy, in finding common ground, in peaceful solutions. "Commander Zekthar, I am Ambassador Marcus Webb representing Earth and all human colonies," he said calmly. "I propose we extend the evacuation deadline by 2 weeks. This will allow us to safely relocate the colonists while our governments discuss the territorial claim. Surely we can find a peaceful solution." Commander Zekthar appeared on screen. His scaled face showed no expression. "The deadline stands. You have 12 hours remaining." "Be reasonable," Webb urged. "There are children down there, families, they need time." "Then they should move faster," the commander replied. 12 hours. The communication ended. Sarah felt her stomach twist with dread. She looked down at her sensor display. The Caldr fleet consisted of 6 warships, each bristling with weapons. Her supply vessel had no weapons at all. She couldn't protect New Haven even if she tried. Ambassador Webb opened a private channel to Sarah. "Captain Chen, I'm ordering you to land on New Haven. Load as many people as you can, especially children. I don't trust the Caldr to keep waiting." "What about you?" Sarah asked. "I'll keep negotiating," Webb said quietly. "Maybe I can buy you more time." Sarah brought the Morning Star down to New Haven's primary spaceport. Colonists were already gathering with whatever belongings they could carry. She saw families with small children, elderly people, teenagers trying to be brave. "We can fit maybe 300 people," her first officer said. "That's pushing maximum capacity. Children and parents first," Sarah ordered. "Then elderly. Then anyone else who can fit." The loading took hours. Sarah stood at the cargo ramp helping people aboard. She saw Maya Patel, the little girl who wanted to be a pilot. Maya was crying, clutching a stuffed animal. Her mother looked terrified. "It's going to be okay," Sarah told them, though she didn't believe her own words. The Rodriguez family came aboard, all 5 children, but Sarah noticed the father was missing. "Where's Carlos?" she asked Mrs. Rodriguez. "He stayed to help others evacuate," Maria Rodriguez said, tears streaming down her face. "He said he'd catch the next ship. There wouldn't be a next ship." Sarah knew it in her bones, but she couldn't say it. With 40 minutes left on the deadline, Sarah had loaded 283 people onto the Morning Star, mostly children and their parents. She sealed the cargo doors and prepared for launch. "Captain," her communications officer said, "Ambassador Webb is still transmitting. He's asking the Caldr for just 1 more hour." Sarah listened to Webb's voice over the radio. He was begging now, his diplomatic composure cracking. "Please, Commander. Just 1 more hour. We have children still on the surface. Show mercy." "Mercy is a weakness," Commander Zekthar replied. "The deadline has passed." Sarah watched her sensors in horror. The Caldr warships powered up their weapons. She slammed her hand on the engine controls. "Full thrust. Get us out of here now." The Morning Star lurched upward, accelerating hard enough to throw everyone against the walls. Sarah heard screaming from the cargo bay where the refugees were packed tight. Below them, New Haven disappeared in flashes of light. The Caldr bombardment was precise and thorough. Orbital weapons struck every town, every farm, every building. The golden wheat fields burned. The solar panels melted. The schools and churches and homes where families had lived and laughed were turned to ash in seconds. Sarah's sensors counted the destruction. 2,847 life signs vanished from her display. Just gone. In less than 5 minutes, New Haven ceased to exist. She stood frozen on her bridge, unable to process what she had just witnessed. Behind her, someone was sobbing. The refugees in the cargo bay had watched through the portholes as their world died. Only 23 people survived. 23 out of nearly 3,000. Ambassador Webb's voice came through, barely a whisper. "They killed them all. The children. They killed the children." Sarah looked at her crew. They were all staring at her, waiting for orders, waiting for her to make sense of this, but there was no sense to be made. The Caldr had murdered an entire colony. They had killed 342 children because humans asked for more time to evacuate. Sarah Chen would deliver the survivors to Earth. She would tell the story of what happened. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that the galaxy was about to learn something about humanity that it had never seen before. The Galactic Council chamber was a massive sphere that floated in neutral space between star systems. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated sections, each area designed for their specific biology. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some needed cold, others heat. The chamber accommodated them all. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood at the central platform. His hair had gone completely white in the 3 weeks since New Haven. He had aged 20 years in less than a month. Behind him, holographic displays showed images from the colony before the attack. Happy families. Children playing. Fields of golden wheat. The Caldr Empire violated every principle of civilized conduct, Webb said. His voice echoed through the translation systems, reaching every delegate in their own language. They murdered 2,847 innocent people. 342 were children under the age of 16. The council members listened with what appeared to be polite attention. Webb had been a diplomat long enough to read alien body language. Most of them seemed sympathetic but not particularly moved. The Caldr representative, Ambassador Kelshaw, rose to speak. She was smaller than Commander Zekthar, with lighter scales, but her golden eyes held the same cold certainty. The human colony was given fair warning, Kelshaw said calmly. They refused to comply with our lawful reclamation of ancestral territory. The responsibility for their deaths lies with their own stubbornness. Webb felt rage burning in his chest, but he kept his voice level. Fair warning? You gave families with small children 48 hours to abandon their homes. That's not fair warning. That's an ultimatum designed to be impossible. Other species have complied with similar demands, Kelshaw replied. The fact that humans chose not to is irrelevant. A representative from the Torvian Unity spoke up. The Torvians were peaceful traders who resembled tall, thin birds. Ambassador Webb, we understand your anger. 20 years ago, the Caldr made similar territorial claims against 3 of our colonies. We negotiated. We reached a settlement. Some of our people relocated, we paid reparations, and peace was maintained. They didn't kill your children, Webb said quietly. The Torvian delegate shifted uncomfortably. There were casualties. 17 civilians died in a confrontation. It was tragic, but we chose to pursue diplomatic solutions rather than escalate to war. 17, Webb thought. They lost 17 and moved on. How could he explain that 342 children meant something different to humans? The council chairperson, a massive aquatic creature called a Velorn, spoke through its translation device. Its voice was deep and resonant. Ambassador Webb, humanity has our sympathy. However, the council must consider proportional response. The Caldr Empire has existed for 6,000 years. They are a major galactic power. Military action against them would destabilize the entire sector. Proportional response? Webb repeated. He pulled up another holographic display. These are the survivors' testimonies. 23 people who watched their world burn. Children who saw their parents vaporized. Parents who lost their children. You want to talk about proportional response? A delegate from the Crimson hierarchy, an insect-like species, clicked its mandibles. Surely humans understand the reality of galactic politics. The strong make demands. The weak must sometimes yield. This is the natural order. Webb looked around the chamber. He saw the same expression on every alien face, translated through wildly different biologies. They were sympathetic, yes, but they thought humans should accept this. Negotiate, pay reparations maybe. Move on. What would your species do? Webb asked slowly. If someone murdered your children, not your soldiers, not your politicians, your children, the young ones who haven't even lived yet. What would you do? The chamber fell silent. Delegates looked at each other. Some seemed confused by the question. To them, casualties were casualties. The age of the dead was just a statistic. The Velorn chairperson spoke again. We would seek justice through appropriate channels. We would negotiate terms. We would ensure such tragedy does not repeat. But we would not risk galactic war over a single incident. Webb nodded slowly. He had his answer. The galaxy didn't understand. Maybe they couldn't understand. Their species had evolved differently. Their instincts were different. Their priorities were different. He tapped his communication device. Fleet Admiral Okonkwo, are you receiving this transmission? A woman's voice came through clearly. Every word, Ambassador. Then you've heard the Council's recommendation? Proportional response in diplomatic channels, Admiral Catherine Okonkwo said. There was no emotion in her voice. Yes, Ambassador. I heard. Webb looked at the assembled delegates one last time. The Council has made its position clear. Humanity withdraws from these proceedings. Ambassador Webb, the Velorn chairperson said. You cannot simply leave. We must establish protocols for— We're done talking, Webb interrupted. He had never interrupted a council chairperson before. It was considered incredibly rude. He didn't care anymore. You've told us to accept that our children can be murdered if we don't move fast enough. You've told us this is just politics. You've told us to negotiate with the people who turned 342 children into ash. He closed his datapad and began walking toward the exit. Humanity respectfully declines. We will handle this our own way. The council chamber erupted in concerned chatter. Multiple delegates tried to call him back. Webb ignored them all. He boarded his shuttle and left the neutral station. Earth had already made its decision. So had every human colony in known space. The vote had been unanimous. 3 billion people spoke with one voice. Admiral Catherine Okonkwo appeared on Webb's communication screen as his shuttle traveled back to human space. She was a tall woman with dark skin and eyes that had seen too many things. She had commanded fleets for 30 years. She had fought pirates and defended colonies from natural disasters. She had never fought a real war. That was about to change. "Admiral," Webb said quietly, "the Council will not help us. They think we should negotiate." "I expected as much," Okonkwo replied. "They don't understand us." "How could they? None of them have a history like ours." She was right. Humans were young compared to most galactic species. They had only reached the stars 200 years ago. In that time, they had been peaceful, friendly, eager to learn. They had followed every rule, respected every protocol, and tried very hard to fit in with the older, more established species. The galaxy saw humans as harmless. Pleasant even. Good traders, decent engineers, enthusiastic explorers. A little emotional maybe, but basically civilized. The galaxy had no idea what humans really were. "The President has authorized Total War Protocol," Okonkwo said. "Every colony has ratified it. Every nation on Earth supports it. Marcus, do you understand what that means?" Webb nodded slowly. He had studied human history. He knew what his species was capable of when pushed beyond certain limits. "It means we stop pretending." "It means we stop pretending," Okonkwo agreed. "For 200 years we've hidden our nature. We didn't want to scare the other species. We wanted to be accepted. We filed away our military history, our wars, our genocides, our atomic weapons. We pretended we were just like them, rational, logical, willing to negotiate everything." She leaned closer to the camera. "But they killed our children, Marcus. They crossed a line that every human being understands, even if the rest of the galaxy doesn't. So now they get to see what we really are." "The Caldr Empire is massive," Webb said. "They have 5 times our military strength. Hundreds of systems. Trillions of citizens, I know," Okonkwo said calmly. "It doesn't matter. Admiral Marcus, let me ask you something. In Earth's history, has humanity ever started a total war and stopped before achieving complete victory? Have we ever said this is too hard and given up?" Webb thought about World War II, the Napoleonic Wars, the campaigns of Alexander and Caesar and Genghis Khan. When humans committed fully to war, they didn't stop until the enemy was destroyed or surrendered unconditionally. "No," he admitted. "We don't stop." "Exactly," Okonkwo said. "The Caldr think they're strong because they've never fought anyone who really wanted to destroy them. Every species they've faced has negotiated, compromised, backed down. They're bullies who've never met someone willing to hit back." She pulled up a star map. It showed human space, small and compact, and Caldrith space, spreading across dozens of sectors. "We're smaller. We're newer. We're outnumbered. On paper, we should lose this war. But we won't," Webb said. It wasn't a question. "No, we won't," Okonkwo confirmed. "Because we're going to show them what humanity looks like when we stop being nice. When we stop following the rules. When we stop caring about proportional response and diplomatic channels." She pulled up another image. Commander Zekthar's service record. "This is the officer who ordered the attack on New Haven. He's the Caldrith Empire's hero now. They gave him a medal for efficient resolution of a territorial dispute. They're celebrating him." Webb felt his jaw tighten. "We're going to find him," Okonkwo said quietly. "We're going to find everyone who gave the order, everyone who pulled the trigger, everyone who celebrated afterward. And we're going to make sure they face justice, human justice." "The galaxy will be horrified," Webb said. "Let them be horrified," Okonkwo replied. "Maybe they'll think twice before they." Commander Zekthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Dominion, and felt pleased with himself. The medal on his chest was heavy and prestigious. The Emperor himself had commended his efficient handling of the human territorial dispute. His career was advancing nicely. "Commander," his sensor officer said, "we're detecting multiple human vessels entering Caldrith space." Zekthar waved a scaled hand dismissively. "Probably more diplomats wanting to negotiate. Humans are weak. They always want to talk." "Sir, these are military vessels. 47 warships just appeared at the edge of the Korometh system." That got Zekthar's attention. 47? Are they trying to intimidate us? "Contact them. Inform them they are violating Caldrith space and must withdraw immediately." The communications officer tried. "Sir, they're not responding to hails. Wait, I'm receiving a transmission. It's on all frequencies, broadcasted to every system in the sector." A human woman appeared on the screen. She wore a military uniform with more medals than Zekthar could count. Her dark eyes were cold as space itself. "I am Fleet Admiral Catherine Okonkwo of the Human Defense Forces," she said. "This message is for the Caldr Empire, and for all species who are watching. 3 weeks ago, Commander Zekthar ordered the murder of 2,847 human civilians, including 342 children. The Galactic Council recommended proportional response and diplomatic channels." She paused. "Humanity rejects this recommendation." Zekthar felt the first stirrings of unease. This didn't sound like a diplomat looking to negotiate. "The Caldr Empire has declared war on humanity by their actions at New Haven," Okonkwo continued. "They expect us to follow the established rules of galactic warfare: limited engagements, proportional casualties, eventually negotiations and peace treaties." Her expression hardened. "They are mistaken. The transmission shifted to show data files, images, historical records. For 200 years, humanity has hidden our true nature. We wanted to be accepted. We wanted to fit in with the civilized galaxy. So we didn't talk about our history. We didn't mention the wars we fought on our homeworld. Wars where millions died, where entire cities were destroyed, where we invented weapons that could end all life on a planet." Zekthar watched in growing horror as images flashed across the screen. Humans fighting humans with terrible efficiency. Weapons that seemed designed purely to maximize death. Battles where the casualties were counted in millions, not thousands. "We are capable of great kindness," Okonkwo said. "We are capable of mercy and compassion and love. We have spent 2 centuries showing the galaxy this side of ourselves." She leaned forward. "But you killed our children, so now you see the other side." The transmission ended. Seconds later, Zekthar's sensor officer screamed, "Multiple human vessels are firing. They're targeting our military stations throughout the system. Return fire." Zekthar ordered. "Deploy all defensive batteries." The Battle of Cormith Station lasted 3 hours. Zekthar had commanded the Caldreth forces with confidence at first. He outnumbered the humans. His ships were well armed and his crews were trained, but the humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. They didn't follow standard tactics. They didn't maintain safe distances. They didn't retreat when damaged. Caldreth warships would wound a human vessel, expect it to withdraw for repairs, and instead watch it ram directly into them. Human captains traded their lives for enemy ships without hesitation. They used weapons the Caldreth had never encountered. They exploited weaknesses Zekthar didn't know existed. They moved with coordinated precision that suggested they had practiced for exactly this battle. When it was over, Cormith Station was gone. Every Caldreth military installation in the system was destroyed. The human fleet had lost 15 ships, but the remaining 32 were already jumping to the next system. Zekthar sent an immediate report to the Caldreth High Command. "The humans are not negotiating. They are not trying to force a peace. They are systematically destroying our military infrastructure." The response came from Fleet Marshal Kothra, one of the Empire's most experienced commanders. "Commander Zekthar, you will reinforce your position and prepare for their next attack. The humans are angry, but they are small. We will crush this rebellion quickly." But the attacks didn't stop. Over the next 2 weeks, human fleets struck 40 different Caldreth systems simultaneously. They didn't try to conquer planets. They destroyed military targets and moved on. Shipyards, weapons platforms, fleet staging areas, communication relays, all gone. The Caldreth Empire mobilized its full military might. They had thousands of warships, millions of soldiers, supply lines stretching across hundreds of star systems. They outnumbered humanity 5 to 1. It didn't seem to matter. Major David Reeves led a human marine unit onto a Caldreth supply depot on the planet Vextor. The depot was supposed to be heavily defended. Intelligence said 3,000 Caldreth soldiers were stationed there. The human force numbered 400 Marines. "Remember the briefing," Reeves told his troops as their dropships descended through the atmosphere. "We're not here to occupy. We're here to destroy their ability to make war, complete the mission and extract." The Caldreth defenders fought bravely, but they had been trained for the kind of warfare the galaxy understood. Defensive positions, suppressing fire, tactical retreats when necessary. The humans didn't do tactical retreats. They advanced through enemy fire with armor that could take more punishment than the Caldreth expected. They used grenades and rockets in situations where galactic warfare protocols said such weapons were too destructive. They moved through the depot like a force of nature, destroying everything that could support the Caldr war effort. When the smoke cleared, the depot was completely destroyed. The humans had taken 60% casualties. In galactic terms, that was catastrophic losses. Any other species would have withdrawn, long before reaching that point. The humans counted it as a successful mission because the depot was gone. Reeves stood among the wreckage and listened to reports from other units across the planet. Every human objective had been achieved. Every target destroyed. The casualties were terrible, but the mission was complete. "Sir," one of his surviving soldiers said, "was it worth it? Losing that many people for a supply depot?" Reeves thought about New Haven, about 342 children who never got to grow up. Every depot we destroy means the Caldr have fewer resources to fight with. Every day we weaken them is one day closer to justice for those kids. The soldier nodded slowly. Then it was worth it. Across Caldr space, the pattern repeated. Human forces struck with overwhelming aggression at military targets. They accepted casualties that horrified other species. They didn't occupy territory. They didn't try to negotiate. They just destroyed the Caldr ability to make war and moved to the next target. The Galactic Council watched in growing alarm. Several species sent urgent messages to humanity, begging them to negotiate. Ambassador Webb responded to all of them with the same message: justice for New Haven, nothing less. Other species began pulling their ambassadors from Caldr space. Trade routes shifted to avoid the war zone. The Council held emergency sessions discussing how to stop the conflict, but humanity wouldn't stop. And slowly the galaxy began to realize something terrifying. For 200 years, humans had been peaceful, friendly, diplomatic, easy to get along with. The galaxy had assumed this was because humans were naturally gentle. They were wrong. Humans had been peaceful because they chose to be peaceful. They had followed the rules because they wanted to fit in. They had negotiated and compromised because they believed in diplomacy. But that was a choice, not a limitation. Now the galaxy was seeing what humans could do when they stopped choosing peace. When they stopped following the rules. When they stopped caring about fitting in. It was terrifying. Emperor Caldr of the Caldr Empire addressed his military commanders in the throne room on the homeworld. "How long until we crush this human rebellion?" he demanded. Fleet Marshal Caldr hesitated. "Your Majesty, the humans have destroyed 40% of our forward military infrastructure. They are not fighting a conventional war. Every battle costs them terribly, but they keep coming. Our numerical advantage doesn't matter, because they are willing to die for their objectives." "Then we will kill them all," the Emperor said coldly. "We are the Caldr Empire. We have ruled for 6,000 years. We will not be defeated by these emotional children." "Your Majesty," another commander said carefully, "perhaps we could negotiate? Return the territory, pay reparations." "Never," the Emperor snapped. "We showed mercy once by giving them 48 hours to evacuate. They refused. The deaths at New Haven are their own fault. The Caldr Empire does not apologize." The commanders looked at each other. They could see the truth even if the Emperor could not. Humanity didn't want reparations. They didn't want territory. They wanted something the Caldr had never encountered before. They wanted revenge, and they were willing to pay any price to get it. Admiral Okonkwo reviewed the casualty reports in her command center. The numbers were terrible. In 6 weeks of fighting, humanity had lost over 300,000 soldiers. Every family on. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Kormeth Station. Commander Zekthar barely recognized himself anymore. His scales had dulled from stress. His eyes were constantly bloodshot. The metal on his chest felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. He stood in the command center on Caldr Prime, watching the strategic displays with growing despair. Red markers showed human fleet positions. They had completely encircled the homeworld. No ships could enter or leave without engaging the human blockade. "Status report," Zekthar ordered. His voice sounded hollow even to his own ears. "The humans have destroyed 80% of our military infrastructure across the Empire," his intelligence officer reported. "Our fleet strength is down to 30% of pre-war levels. Supply lines are completely disrupted. And our casualties?" Zekthar asked, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. The officer hesitated. 847 billion, Commander." The number was so large it didn't even sound real. 847 billion Caldr dead. most of them military personnel. But the count included everyone who worked in weapons facilities, shipyards, logistics centers, and military command structures. How? Zekthar whispered. How can such a small species cause this much destruction? Fleet Marshal Kothra, who had been transferred to Caldr Prime's defense force, spoke grimly. Because they don't fight the way we thought civilized species should fight. They don't care about proportional response. They don't care about their own casualties. They only care about destroying our ability to make war. On the display screens, they watched human fleets moving through Caldrith space like a plague. Every system they visited ended the same way. Military targets destroyed, human casualties accepted without hesitation, then movement to the next target. They're converting their entire economy to war production. Kothra continued. Every factory, every resource, everything is being used to build weapons and ships. Their industrial capacity is growing faster than we can destroy it. And their tactics? Zekthar asked. They adapt constantly, Kothra said. Every time we develop a defense for one strategy, they change approaches. They use psychological warfare tailored specifically to our biology. They broadcast videos of New Haven's children to our troops before battles. They paint the names of the dead colonists on their weapons. They want us to remember exactly why they're killing us. Zekthar turned away from the displays. I gave them 48 hours. It was standard protocol for territorial reclamation. It was a death sentence, Kothra said bluntly. And now we're all paying for it. Across the galaxy, other species watched the war with increasing horror. The Torvian Unity called an emergency session of their parliament. The Crimson Hierarchy closed their borders. The Valorn Collective issued statements condemning both sides while carefully avoiding any actions that might anger humanity. A young Caldrith civilian named Shalthra lived in a city on Caldrith Prime. Before the war, she had been a teacher. She had never thought much about military matters or galactic politics. The New Haven incident had been news, but distant news. The humans were just another species, and if they couldn't evacuate fast enough, well, that was unfortunate, but not her problem. Now human warships orbited above her planet. The blockade had been in place for a month. Food was rationed. Power was limited. The military kept saying they could break the siege, but everyone knew they were lying. Shalthra stood in her classroom looking at her students. There were only 12 left. The others had been evacuated to underground shelters with their families. These 12 had nowhere else to go. Teacher, a young Caldrith child asked, why are the humans attacking us? Shalthra had asked herself the same question many times. The government's answer was that humans were savage and unreasonable. But she had started digging through archives, reading about New Haven, learning what had actually happened. We killed their children, she said quietly, and they want justice. But we're children too, another student said, frightened. Will they kill us? I don't know, Shalthra admitted. That was the terrifying thing. She genuinely didn't know. The humans had avoided civilian casualties so far, focusing entirely on military targets. But how long would that last? How far would they go for their revenge? On Earth, Major David Reeves sat in a hospital room recovering from his third combat injury. He had been shot, blown up, and nearly suffocated when his armor failed in a vacuum environment. The doctor said he was lucky to be alive. He didn't feel lucky. He felt tired, bone-deep tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. Major Reeves, a young journalist, had somehow gotten into the hospital. Can I ask you some questions about the war? No, Reeves said automatically. Just one question, the journalist pressed. Was it worth it? All the people we've lost, all the destruction, was it worth it for New Haven? Reeves closed his eyes. He thought about the missions he had led, the soldiers who had died under his command, good people who volunteered knowing they might not come home. He thought about the Caldrith soldiers he had killed, who were probably just following orders like anyone else. Then he thought about Maya Patel, the little girl who wanted to be a pilot. She had been on Captain Chen's ship, one of the survivors. He had met her at a memorial service. She still had nightmares about watching her home burn. Yes, he said finally, it was worth it. Because if we let them murder our children without consequences, then we're saying that human lives don't matter. We're saying anyone with a big enough fleet can kill us and get away with it. We're saying we're not worth protecting. Even if it means becoming monsters ourselves? The journalist asked. We're not monsters, Reeves said tiredly. Monsters kill children for missing an impossible deadline. We're just people making sure monsters face justice. The journalist left and Reeves went back to staring at the ceiling. He knew what he said was true, but he also knew that every Caldr soldier he killed had probably been someone's child too. War made everyone a monster in some way. On Caldr Prime, Emperor Caldr finally accepted the reality of his situation. His empire was collapsing, his fleets were scattered, his people were terrified, and the humans showed no signs of stopping. "Contact the human fleet," he ordered. "Request negotiations." The response came from Admiral Okonkwo herself. "Emperor Caldr, humanity is willing to discuss terms. Here are our requirements. Unconditional surrender of all Caldr military forces. War crimes tribunal for everyone involved in ordering or executing the New Haven massacre. Full reparations to the survivors. And formal acknowledgement that the Caldr Empire committed murder." The Emperor felt rage building in his chest. "Those terms are unacceptable. We are the Caldr Empire. We do not surrender unconditionally." "Then the siege continues," Okonkwo said simply. "Every day you refuse, more of your people die. More of your infrastructure is destroyed. More of your empire collapses. The choice is yours, Emperor." "You're asking me to condemn my own officers," Caldr shouted. Commander Zekthar was following standard procedure. "Your standard procedure was murder," Okonkwo replied coldly. "And now you're learning that there are consequences for murder. You can surrender and face justice, or we can continue until your empire is nothing but memories. You'll destroy yourselves too. Your casualties are unsustainable." "We know," Okonkwo said. "We know exactly what this war is costing us. Every death is another name on the memorial wall. Another family grieving. Another hole in our society that will never be filled. We know all of this." She leaned closer to the camera. "But we also know that we can't stop. Because if we stop before achieving justice for New Haven, then those 342 children died for nothing. And we can't accept that. So we'll keep fighting until you surrender, or until there's nothing left of your empire to fight. The choice has always been yours." The transmission ended. Emperor Caldr sat on his throne and realized he had made a catastrophic mistake 6 months ago. He had thought the humans were like every other species. Rational, willing to negotiate, able to put politics above emotion. But humans weren't rational when you killed their children. They were something else entirely. Something ancient and terrible that the rest of the galaxy had never encountered. They were parents who had lost their young, and they would burn down the universe to make it right. Commander Zekthar received new orders. He was being summoned to the palace. The Emperor wanted to discuss terms of surrender. He looked at the medal on his chest one last time. The achievement that had been his greatest pride was now a mark of shame. He had killed children because it was efficient. Because the rules said he could. Because he never imagined anyone would actually make him pay for it. "Prepare my shuttle," he told his aide quietly. "It's time to face what I've done." Across the galaxy, species that had once seen humanity as peaceful and friendly now whispered fearfully about the other side of humanity. They understood now that human kindness was a choice, not a weakness. That human mercy was a gift, not a guarantee. And they understood that if you took human children, you discovered something that made the entire galaxy tremble. Humanity's capacity for absolute, unrelenting, unstoppable revenge. The siege of Caldr Prime continued. Human forces waited patiently for the surrender they knew would eventually come. Because humanity had learned one lesson from their own bloody history, that the rest of the galaxy 1 year after New Haven burned, the Caldr Empire formally surrendered. The ceremony took place on a neutral station, witnessed by representatives from 47 species. Everyone wanted to see how this terrible war would finally end. Commander Zekthar stood in chains. His scales had turned almost gray from stress and shame. The medal he had once worn so proudly had been stripped from his uniform. Behind him stood 17 other Caldr officers who had participated in planning or executing the New Haven massacre. Fleet Admiral Catherine Okonkwo sat across from them. She looked older than she had a year ago. Her eyes held ghosts that would never leave. Behind her stood representatives from Earth and every human colony. In the back row, 23 people sat quietly, the survivors of New Haven. Captain Sarah Chen was among them. She held the hand of little Maya Patel, who was still afraid of loud noises and had nightmares about fire. "Commander Zekthar," Admiral Okonkwo said. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "You are charged with the murder of 2,847 human civilians, including 342 children. How do you plead? Zekthar had rehearsed this moment many times. His lawyers had advised him to argue that he was following orders, that it was military necessity, that any commander would have done the same. But he had also spent 11 months watching his empire die. He had seen 847 billion of his people killed because of his decision. He had learned what it meant to face an enemy that would never stop, never negotiate, never forgive. Guilty, he said quietly. I gave the order. I killed them. I thought it was efficient. I thought it was just removing an obstacle. He looked at the survivors. At Maya, who flinched when he met her eyes. At Sarah Chen, who had pulled children onto her ship while the world burned. At the other 21 people who had lost everything. I didn't think they were real, Zekthar continued. I saw statistics, population numbers, resources to be cleared. I didn't think about the children who would die. The families destroyed. The futures ended. I just saw a problem and solved it the way I was trained to solve problems. He turned to Admiral Okonkwo. I understand now. Too late, but I understand. You weren't fighting for territory or resources or political advantage. You were fighting because I killed your children. And nothing in the galaxy is more dangerous than a species protecting their young. The tribunal lasted 3 weeks. Every officer involved in New Haven faced judgment. The evidence was clear, the guilt undeniable. The sentences were pronounced with calm finality. Commander Zekthar and his immediate subordinates received life imprisonment in human custody. Others received varying sentences based on their level of involvement. All would serve their time in prisons built specifically for this purpose, where they would spend the rest of their lives thinking about what they had done. Emperor Caldr was removed from power. The Caldr Empire as a political entity was dissolved. Individual Caldr worlds would govern themselves, but they would never again have the military power to threaten others. The cost was calculated with brutal precision. 847 billion Caldr had died during the war. Mostly military personnel, but the number included everyone in the military supply chain. Factories, logistics centers, command posts, training facilities, all destroyed along with everyone in them. Humanity had lost 2.3 million soldiers. Another 800,000 civilians had died in Caldr retaliatory strikes before their military was completely destroyed. Earth's economy had converted 40% of its productive capacity to war materials. The colonies had contributed everything they could. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood before the reconvened Galactic Council. The chamber was silent as he approached the central platform. Every species representative watched him carefully, some with sympathy, others with fear. 1 year ago, Webb began, I stood here and asked what your species would do if someone murdered your children. You recommended proportional response and diplomatic channels. You told us to negotiate. He pulled up a holographic display. It showed New Haven before the attack. The golden fields, the happy families, the simple beauty of a peaceful colony. We chose differently. We chose justice over politics. We chose revenge over diplomacy. We chose to show the galaxy what humanity really is when you cross the line that should never be crossed. Another image appeared. The casualty statistics. The staggering numbers on both sides. You're probably wondering if it was worth it, Webb said. If justice for 2,847 people, especially 342 children, was worth 847 billion Caldr lives, and 2.3 million human soldiers, he paused, looking at each delegation in turn. I'll tell you what humanity decided. Yes, it was worth it. Because if we had negotiated, if we had accepted reparations and moved on, we would have told the galaxy that human lives are negotiable, that our children can be murdered if the other side is strong enough. Instead, we taught a different lesson, Webb continued. We taught the galaxy that humanity has two sides. One side is kind, peaceful, diplomatic, friendly. We genuinely prefer this side. We like making friends. We enjoy cooperation in trade and cultural exchange. We want to be part of the galactic community. His voice hardened. But if you take our children, you meet the other side. The side that comes from a planet where we spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. Where we built weapons that could destroy our entire world. Where we fought each other with such ferocity that we nearly went extinct multiple times. For 200 years we hid that side, Webb said. We filed it away. We pretended we were just like you. Rational creatures who could put politics above emotion. We wanted so badly to fit in. He pulled up footage from the war, human fleets attacking with suicidal courage, Marines advancing through impossible fire, the determination that never wavered despite terrible casualties. But we're not like you, Webb said simply. We're human. We love completely. We forgive readily. We hope eternally. But when you hurt our children, we remember forever, and we never stop until justice is served. He pulled up one final image. The New Haven Memorial, built on the ruins of the colony, 342 names carved in stone, each one a child who would never grow up. Humanity is establishing what we call the New Haven Protocols, Webb announced. From this day forward, any attack on human civilians, especially children, triggers an automatic total war response. No negotiations, no proportional response, no diplomatic channels, just war until the attacking party surrenders unconditionally or ceases to exist. The chamber erupted in concerned chatter. Several species representatives stood to protest. The Valorn chairperson tried to call for order. Webb spoke over them all. We're not asking for your approval. We're informing you of reality. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity is not weak. Our kindness is a choice, not a limitation. Our mercy is a gift, not a guarantee. Our peace is something we offer freely, but it can be taken away if you cross certain lines. You saw what happened to the Caldr Empire, Webb said. They were ancient, powerful, established. They outnumbered us 5-1. It didn't matter. We destroyed them because they killed our children. Let that be a lesson to every species here. He closed his datapad. Humanity will remain part of the Galactic Council. We will continue to pursue peaceful relations with all species who respect us. We will honor treaties, engage in trade, and contribute to galactic civilization. But from now on, everyone knows what happens if you mistake our kindness for weakness. Webb left the platform. The council chamber remained in chaos behind him, but he didn't care. He had said what needed to be said. Admiral Okonkwo stood at the New Haven Memorial, looking at the names carved in stone. It was night, and Earth's moon cast silver light across the ruins. Crews were rebuilding the colony, but the memorial would remain forever. Was it worth it? She asked herself quietly. The same question everyone had been asking. She thought about the 2.3 million soldiers who died under her command. Young men and women who volunteered to fight. Who knew they might not come home. Who believed that protecting human children was worth any price. She thought about the Caldr civilians who died when their military infrastructure was destroyed. Innocent people caught up in a war they didn't start. 847 billion lives ended because their leaders made one catastrophic mistake. Yes, she said finally, it was worth it. Because now the galaxy knows. You can negotiate with us, you can compete with us, you can even fight us over territory or resources. But if you murder our children, we will end you. No matter the cost. No matter how long it takes. No matter how many of us have to die. She touched one of the names. Sarah Rodriguez, age 7. She had wanted to be a farmer like her father. I'm sorry we couldn't save you, Okonkwo whispered. But I promise you, no one will ever do this to human children again, because now they know what we are. Major David Reeves retired from the military 3 months after the war ended. He had 5 medals and 3 permanent